Hello, my name is Vaughn, and I'm from the Colleyville, Texas stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And today we're going to talk a little bit about storing energy, creating energy for the things that you might need in an emergency situation. So we're going to go over a few things that you can consider in what you might be able to afford, or that you can start to add gradually to your personal preparedness. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about in emergency preparedness and being prepared is usually most people think about the most basic thing is we need flashlights. Emergencies don't always happen in the daytime. A lot of times they happen at night. So along with having a flashlight, obviously one of the things that we need to have is batteries. So every homeowner should have some batteries. This is something that I have in my house. I of course have more that are in packages, but I put these in a rack. I have almost all the different sizes of batteries that you could use in different devices. So you just need to do that. One of the things that is really important about having batteries is knowing whether they're good or not. So one of the things that I have is this kit comes with a battery meter. So you can actually check the condition of batteries. It's a good thing to find out if your equipment is working or not. Check your battery voltage. This can check all of these. So that's very important from a standpoint of batteries. Have plenty on hand, because if there's an emergency, there will be a run on batteries and they will not be available. Another thing that's very important to us in any situation, or that we use daily, is our cell phones. We can't do anything without our cell phones. So if you can imagine not having that in an emergency situation or where you need to contact people, we need our cell phones charged. Another thing, which is another segment that we won't cover right now, this is a ham radio, and some people have licenses to operate these. There's GMRS radios, but that'll be another subject. But if these things aren't charged, or a way to charge these devices, then they're useless. They're paperweights is all they are. Now I want to take a moment to talk about how we keep our important things charged, or we can recharge those items. So what I have a multitude of things. This happens to be a ZAG product. We're not endorsing anything. It's just one of the things I have. But this one holds about 5,000 milliamp hours of energy, able to charge your cell phone probably a couple of times, maybe even an iPad with this device. But it's simple in that it is portable. You can see the size of it. You just plug it into the wall and it will charge, and this is a charge indicator, and you can see the two USB charging points right there. So that's one item that I use. Advanced technology. This item is probably 5 years old. This item is more recently purchased. This holds 10,000 milliamp hours, so it's 2.5 times more capacity here and can slip in your pocket. This has multiple different types of chargers for all the different kinds of equipment and different USBs. So this thing is a great thing to have around. Also, very simple. It's built-in charger, and it just plugs into your wall and it charges up. The next thing I wanted to go to that's another source of power is a drill. Well, actually not the drill, but this may be a common household item that you have. Take off the battery. A lot of different manufacturers provide a little device like this that slips over that battery pack, and as you'll see right here is a USB charging port. So then you can take items and plug in your USB charger, and you can charge your cell phone or whatever that or your ham radio or whatever you need to do. So that's another item. So while I have this one up here, this is another power pack which you can charge from a computer or a USB or one of these other items and have another little battery pack. What's kind of neat about this battery pack is it's solar powered. So you can set this out in the sun and it will charge, or hang it on your backpack and it generates power. You can charge it from a wall outlet. This one also comes with a pretty powerful flashlight. So this is a pretty handy item to have around an emergency. It's a multi-use device. I actually have two of them, so I can carry them in a car or in a backpack, or for whatever you're doing. I want to talk about this little product that I have. It's a fun one. I don't use it a lot, but I do have it, and it is in my emergency preparedness equipment that I do have. This is actually a little solar power generator. It doesn't produce a lot, but it would produce enough to charge a phone or other small devices. And it's portable. So I'm just going to show this to you. This happens to be Goal Zero. There are several other products on the market that are out there. I just happen to have this one. Actually, it was a gift to me by my daughter, but there are several other products that you can research and find out what works for you. So this one comes in a kit. As you can see on this one, there's the 2 solar panels here on both sides. Comes with hooks. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down here. So obviously you just point this to the sun. This one comes with, of course, instructions and cables. So this one comes with a USB cable. This one also comes with a car lighter, so you can plug that in there. So if you have something that plugs into a regular accessories in your car, then this will produce power and put it out like a car outlet. Or this one also has the USB outlets here. So you can charge anything USB on this one. So this will charge a phone. Obviously, the more sun you have, the more power it will generate. And solar, is not as quick as other methods, but it's free energy. And in emergencies, we probably figure the sun's going to go up every day, so we're going to have sun. So okay, another item I'd like to show you. We've talked about battery power. We've talked about solar. This is another item that I have that's in my home. It sits by my bed. And this is a radio. It's an alarm. It's a clock. But it's also specifically for emergencies. It has pre-programmed weather bands on this one. It's a regular AM/FM radio as well. It also has emergency light that I can use next to my bed. It has an antenna on the back so you can get better reception, especially for the weather. But what's cool about this one is it has a solar panel on the top. We were talking about solar power. It also has batteries that are in here. There's regular AAA batteries, and there's also a NiCad battery in here for a power source, which you can select here. The other cool thing about this when we're talking about power generation is this has a dynamo or a generator in there. You just spin this thing and you can generate electricity for the flashlight or for the radio. The other great thing is it has a USB charger on the back, so you can charge your phone or your radio. So just another item to consider for your emergency preparedness. It's a great little tool, multi-tool. Okay, another product we're talking about, as long as we're talking about storing power. This is an item that I have, carry in my vehicles and or my jet ski, since I like to be on the lake. I've got 2 of them, so I have them in different vehicles, or I'll put them and move them around. Small, compact. This one's by Viking. It's a kind of a neat little product. It looks quite large, but as you can see in the pack, it comes with a pretty small size battery pack. I mean, this is something you could even take on a plane and power items. So this thing has multiple power sources. It comes with cables, USB cables with different ends. There's your iPad accessories, your other cables. You can obviously use your own cables. Another thing that this item has is it has a flashlight built into it, so it's a flashlight for emergencies. Got to figure out how to turn it off. Now it's flashing. No, now it's an emergency thing. Got to figure out what this thing does here. Oops. Oh. Got to learn how to use my thing a little bit better. Sorry. Okay, this one, when you press on the power button, it shows your power display. You need to know what state your batteries, your power source always is. What's cool about this in this little tiny package, oh, I forgot to mention, you can plug in different items along here. So this is where you can charge it from a regular house outlet. Comes with a charger, 110. It also has the USB I talked about. That's the port for that. This one also has a 12 volt accessory outlet for people who need that for different other items. And like for this, here again is our vehicle accessory. So if you have that kind of adapter, which is quite common, you can use that as well. The other great thing about this little thing is this will start a dead battery in your car if you're stranded. So, and that's this little outlet here, and it is, you'll see, that's jumper cables. Now you might not think this has enough power to start your car, but I guarantee you it does, because I've revived several people's cars with this. Now it doesn't fix your battery, but it will get you unstranded and off the road. So that's just another item you can look at. There are many different brands out there. This just happens to be Viking. I got this one at Harbor Freight Tools. This one runs about 80 bucks. But well worth it to not be stranded. Now if we move along to a little bit bigger, not necessarily more powerful, this is another unit that I have, Black & Decker. It's much larger because it does other things. Not only will it jumpstart your car, there's the battery cables for that. This one also has an inverter in it, so it'll run a 12-volt accessory. It will also has an inverter, and you can plug in a regular 110 outlet, so you could charge other things besides. This is where you charge it from a 110 outlet. And this is also an air compressor, so this can inflate your tire in an emergency situation, so you can use that. These are just other things where you can turn on the lights. There's a light on that side, so if you're out on the road, if you can see that. This will turn on the USB charger, so you have your USB port right underneath here. Sorry about that. So that's a button for that. But this one has one battery in it that you can use. It has pretty good power, but I'm Vaughn and you always need more power. So this is a nice DeWalt one. It's much heavier because it has two battery packs, has twice the capacity that this unit does. Of course, this comes with light as well. There's a button there, so for emergencies, you've got light in emergency situations. This can also check your alternator. It also has an inverter, so you can plug in. I should have looked at this before. Here's your outlets right here, and your USB ports. So it will run that. And this is also an air compressor, so it can air up your tire, and all the accessories and cables to jump start your car and charge are all included in this pack. So that's just another way of storing energy and being able to keep your other products operating in case of an emergency. I want to go back to lighting for just a moment. Of course, I like Milwaukee. Milwaukee's pretty good. Rigid, Ryobi, a lot of these are great. But I wanted to mention something about light. You can have flashlights, but it's really limited, and you always have to hold the thing. I have several units like this that are freestanding, and this thing can be, put around everywhere. What I wanted to show you is we talked about charging devices. This one has a plug, so you can charge or run this light with this, but it also runs off of a battery pack. If I can get it out. So there's a battery pack. So this is a dual source light that you can use that is very good. It has different levels, and it's really good for not having to hold it. You can light a room if you need to. You just aim it straight up. Really neat little product to consider for your emergency preparedness. I'm helping you to spend money, as you can see, right? Now we want to move on up to larger things, because obviously the small things take a small amount of power, but we're talking about an emergency. Let's say the power goes off. We need to take care of some things. So I'm going to talk to the moms right now. In your house, in the kitchen, is a refrigerator, and if the power goes out, if you don't open the refrigerator, you can store things probably 4 or 5 hours before the temperature starts to drop. But if you need to get anything out of there, you're going to lose cold air. This is one of the most important things that you could probably have as a homeowner for emergency preparedness. I've talked earlier about other power storing and generating things through solar, but this is really the only way that you can power something of any size, like a refrigerator. This one is a generator I've had for several years, many years in fact. It's Champion. You can still buy this style of generators. Some of the newer ones aren't like this one. This is square and modular, and I'll show you about that in a minute. But one of the key things that I want to point out is every generator generates different amounts of power. This one is an inverter type generator, and that's something you need to look at, is the inverter style is better for electronic equipment versus, say, the larger generators. This is rated at 2,000 watts. But I need to tell you that you have to understand what the surge power or the maximum power that this will generate is 1,600 watts. But I want to show you on the back, you may not be able to see it, but there's a label down here that talks about the surge, or the maximum power is 2,000 watts, and the continuous running wattage is 1,600 watts. Most of your blow dryers run at around 1,000 to 1,200 watts. So it just kind of gives you an idea of that heat generation in the blower. This item though would probably run most refrigerators, but you have to make sure that the surge watts, because a refrigerator has a compressor and it needs that extra surge of power to start, and then it settles down and it can run. So surge power and running power is something you really need to make sure of and do your research on. So this one's 2,000 watts surge, 1,600 watts continuous. Now, this will run a lot of things. You could run a refrigerator, you could maybe run some lights. It has the two outlets here, and so this one does not have a direct USB port. Many of the newer ones do. But this could also charge some of the other power sources we talked about earlier, the other little battery packs and things like that. So the other thing though with this is you have to store fuel, and we'll talk about fuel in a little bit, but we just want to talk about this. This is 2,000 watts. You should have at least this amount of power in a home, in my opinion. Some of these have a 2,200 watt with a little bit higher running watts, so you can run a few other items like a light. But this is the beginning point. What I've done is I've purchased with this. This is a combining kit for this style of generator, and all of these small generators will usually have a combining kit. This one's really handy because it's designed to sit right here. You just take this, stacks on there, and you have 4,000 watts now by connecting these two cables. They connect to here, they connect to here, and that will electrically connect these so that these two generators run in sync. So you get 4,000 total watts, and 16 times 2 is, my math is, 3,200 watts. I'm on the camera, so I'm a little nervous with my math. But anyway, the beauty of this is you've probably seen Honda as kind of a brand name, very expensive. They'll do the same thing as this. I've actually heard that these units use the same engine as the Hondas, but I can't confirm that. But these are probably 8 years old, and they'll start after sitting 6 months, first or second pull, if you use the right fuel. What's nice about this, has economy mode on here, so instead of running at a higher RPM, you can run on economy mode so you're not burning as much fuel. This thing should run on a gallon of gas for about 8 hours, I believe, on the high end. But just another thing to consider, I also have with this, because this thing actually generates more power. You can get up to a 30 watt or a 30 amp outlet, and you can recognize this style of outlet on there. It does not produce 220 volts. This isn't that capable, but it will produce 30 amps. I have different adapters, so I can put these in here and adapt it to different plugs. I have other adapters for different equipment. And there's another plug in here. So I also have with this is all the different cables and adapters that I keep in my container here that I can adapt to several other things, and I'm stepping on my mic. Anyway, that's all for this level of power generation. Okay, continuing on our power generation with a gas power generator. This is it's a beast. This one is quite a large one. As you can see, this one actually has a Honda engine. It is a actual 2-cylinder engine, very reliable. I've had this one for quite some time. It's much heavier. These handles do fold down for storage, but I'm going to show you the business end of this thing. This one holds about 12 gallons of fuel. I can't remember how long it runs, but I think it'll run 10 or 12 hours even on this big one. Here's the business end of this one. This one is a, okay, here's the rating. So 8,000 watts is the continuous running. 12,500 watts is the surge watts, and we talked about that a little bit earlier about the continuous and the surge. The reason why that's important, I actually have this one that I can plug this into my house through this 50 amp 220 volt outlet. This is will generate 220 volts. I can actually run one of my air conditioning units on my home, and so that's as a backup. So now you've got to be able to do other things to get this kind of power into your home safely, and this is one thing that I do have. I could show you the outlet on my home, but this one has so many different kinds of outlets, your regular 110 or 120, different voltages, different plugs, and then of course you can have the adapters. So this is a very handy item to have. Again, this can be quite a bit more expensive. This one might have to be on your Christmas and birthday list, and you have to do a lot of convincing of your wife to get one of these, but it will run refrigerators or freezers. If you're like me, I have a refrigerator, and I actually have 3 cooling things in my house. I have 2 refrigerators, and then I have a storage freezer. This would easily run all those items and additional lighting and other things as well. So just another thing to consider. But I do want to mention that this is a very loud generator, so you're going to be making a lot of noise for your neighbors, might draw some attention. So you just need to consider what will work well for you and your family, and being able to move this thing around. To get this in a truck, you know, if you need to put it in the back of a truck, it's going to take about 3 or 4 strong people to put it in, or sometimes I use a hoist. But compared to the other 2 smaller Champion units, sometimes that's better. But for me, I've started out with batteries as I worked up in size. The Champion generators are lightweight and able to move around. The paralleling unit makes it 4,000 watts. Then we jump to the 8,000 watts. So you just need to understand what kind of power requirements that you need or would like to be able to have in your emergency situation. So you got research to do if you're going to buy something. While we're on the topic of generators, I want to talk about fuel because it's very important. Storing fuel can be very difficult because fuel can degrade over time. So I like this canned fuel. I buy this at Home Depot. You can get it at Lowe's. All of these generators are a 4-cycle. You want to make sure you get the right fuel. There are some fuels that look like this in a similar can, but they're for your 2-stroke items that are like your weed eaters and things like that. So just be aware of what you're buying. Make sure you get the right fuel. This is about $19 to $20 a can. I usually buy it in a case of 4, and so it's expensive compared to regular fuel. But the thing about it is it doesn't have any ethanol in it, and so it won't destroy your engine over long-term storage. I always use this because my generators don't get used a lot, so I rely on this fuel so it can sit for 6 months or a year. I can come out and start my generators, which we're going to do a little short run here in a little bit, but just wanted to talk about fuel and fuel storage. Otherwise, if you just use fuel from the pump, that's fine, but you know, it starts to degrade after about 6 months or so, so you just need to take that into consideration. I don't want to spend money to rebuild a carburetor or whatever, so I just rely on this fuel even though it's a little more expensive. Now we've talked about generators, but now we're actually going to start one, and we're going to try this out. We talked about the fuel. I always store mine with the good fuel. So on this item, I haven't started this in quite some time, so it's probably been a couple of months. You should normally run your generators once a month, they tell you, but sometimes I get lazy. But we're going to try this out on camera and see how quickly this thing will start using the fuel. So I've turned on the fuel both here and on the top. I usually run out the fuel, so it has to run into there. This has a choke, so I'm going to do that. Turn on the power. We'll see how long it takes to start this. Now, when it starts, it's going to be a little noisy. That might blank out my microphone, but I might yell, or we'll see what we can do. Anyway, let's see if this works. Just a test. Okay, if you can hear me, I'm just going to back away from that generator. That generator is running full power, but you saw that was one pull of that generator using that fuel. It's expensive, but I think it's worth it. So what I'm going to do here, now that it's running, I'm going to go over there and switch it down to the lower volume level, and we'll try that. Whoop. Tripping on the cord. Now, did you notice that difference in that sound? This is running on the economy level, and we can basically have a conversation while that's running. If it needs more power, if you have something plugged in, it will automatically go to the higher level. But this way, you could, if you're charging something that needs the lower level, you don't have to use as much fuel. So that's a great feature that these inverter generators have. I'm going to step over here. I'm going to turn it back up so higher. In fact, I'm just going to keep talking, and you can see how it drowns out my voice probably. There it is. I don't know if you can hear it. That's all there is to it. It's a great little generator. Okay, now we're going to talk about my big generator. Now, I haven't ran this one as well either. It stores for quite some time, but I use the good fuel. We talked about this power generating unit and that it can start vehicles. Well, since I've let my battery run out, it's old, I haven't replaced it or kept it charged. We're going to start it with this that I talked to you about before. So we're just going to hook it up. Well, we're trying to hook it up. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to press the jump start button. It's ready to jump start. Turn my switch on, and here we go. Okay, you can see how loud that was. You probably wouldn't have heard anything I said. But we did get that started. If I had this problem and we actually had a power issue, remember I told you this plugs into the wall? While this is running and running something else, maybe my air conditioner because it's the middle of summer, or it runs the blower on my heater in my furnace in the house, I can plug this in and then use this that started it to recharge this so that this will stay charged up. So we've given you a lot of things to consider about this large of a generator, but we'll talk a little bit later about some other things. Okay, we're back with you. Thanks for spending some time with us as we go through this video talking about storage, emergency preparedness, storing power, having things to be able to power certain devices. also about generating power, both solar or mechanical through a generator, or using, gasoline powered. There are diesel generators, but the different generators. So one of the things you need to remember is that obviously these things cost money. You need to look at your budget and kind of figure out what will work best for you. I've collected these over quite some time, so it would be quite a big of expense if I was to go out and buy all these things. But one of the things you can do is Google. You can Google all this information and try and find things out. What's a good generator, how much power you need. Another source is your ward emergency preparedness specialist. Reach out to them because they can provide you with some additional information, or you just might know someone that you can ask. So it's kind of getting dark here. We almost need to bring out our battery powered lights, which we could do. The sun's going down. I hope you enjoyed this video, and get started on getting educated so that you can be prepared for when the next emergency comes.